always the same, is the wearing of masks. It's very occultish. And so this is what they're trying to do, is to normalize this. Everybody using the number 6, everybody having signage that says the number, everybody wearing a mask. This whole thing is turned into one giant ritual. And then on top of that, they're seeing how far they can get the populace to comply, even when we know stuff doesn't work, like you just said, with the curfew. So apparently, at 9:01, COVID gets released outside. We don't know how, we don't know where, but at 9:01, COVID gets released, and they come out like a pack of wild dogs looking for people. 8:59, you're good. COVID's locked up. You don't have to worry about it. 9:01, you better be in your house, it better be boarded up, and you better have a mask on, and you better not have more than 6 people in your house, because if COVID gets out at 9:01 and you have 7 people in your house, dude, you're screwed. It's done. It's coming in your house. It knows you have 7 people in there, not 6. It's going to get you. Now, obviously, I'm being grossly sarcastic in this, but I'm showing everybody the idiotic ideology they're trying to force people to follow, when you can blatantly use common sense and realize it makes none whatsoever. The whole thing about the certain amount of people at tables, the certain amount of people in groups, the feet apart from it. We already know the lockdowns didn't work, so why are they doing them again? And if the lockdowns did work, then why are they having to do them again in some of these states? Right. You know what I mean? So what we're seeing here is another contrived effort to put more restrictions, more lockdowns, more draconian measures to try to force a populace to follow and obey like peasants. The next thing they're going to start rolling out is the vaccine. Now, Pfizer has come out today, and they are now pretty much demanding that the FDA give them emergency authorization to release this vaccine so they can start distributing it. Now, it's interesting about this, and I brought this up on my show earlier today. I'm going to bring it up on this show because Ted and I have been talking about this for the last couple weeks. Pfizer slipped out, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks ago, and discussed the fact that they already had hundreds of thousands of vials that were in production for the vaccine before the phase 3 clinical trials were even done, well before the FDA even approved it, because the FDA hasn't even approved it up until right now when we're doing the show. Well, one of our listeners and really good customers, known him for years, great guy, out in Tennessee, he's a doctor, works at a hospital, and he called us up yesterday, and he said, want to give you guys a heads up. He said, I've been here for years. I'm very proactive. We talked to him before. He said they are getting a shipment of 295 vials of the Pfizer COVID vaccine next week. Next week, it's coming in 2 doses, a 0.3 and a 0.5. The first one is the first injection. 2 weeks later is the booster shot. He said that the AMA already has assigned codes for use for tracking, cataloging, and inventory. And Tennessee is one of the 4 pilot states that Pfizer is going to be using to run their new COVID vaccine. So let me just reiterate this. Pfizer is still trying to demand that the FDA give them emergency approval on paper in the news. But yet Pfizer is already getting the vaccines ready to ship out to hospitals, meaning they already know this thing's approved. They've already been told it's going to be approved. They knew it was approved months ago. The military-industrial complex now operates Operation Warp Speed, which is headed all the funds that are going to these pharmaceutical companies that are making this RNA-based vaccine that is designed to actually slightly rewrite the way your body actually works and your DNA works. It has aborted kidney tissue in it. It has aborted lung tissue in it. This is how they culture and make it. You can do your own research on this and look it up. It's very, very dark what they're doing with this vaccine. And the fact that this stuff has to be kept at negative 94 degrees Fahrenheit and can only be opened twice a day in this big suitcase box when you pull it out of the freezer, out of the other freezer, shows you this stuff is so volatile. I talked about it on the show last week. So what we're seeing here is the masks, to answer your question, have been about compliance and getting people on board to follow what they're told. The next phase will be the vaccines. Because so many people now have been so trained and been so lied to, this is what you have to do, this is how you follow orders, this is how you do it, you have to stay social distance from everybody. When the vaccine rolls out, there's going to be a lot of people that take it. And what's more likely going to happen, and I've heard this from a few different people, and I've talked about this as well, the vaccine is more than likely going to shed or cause serious health conditions, as we already know from Moderna and Pfizer. When we look at the adverse conditions that occurred, they were extremely high. In one phase, there were 100% adverse conditions in the Moderna COVID vaccine trial. Now, they weren't all life-threatening, but they were all significant adverse conditions. What's more than likely going to happen is the reason why they're trying to get this vaccine rolled out so fast and get it distributed so quickly and get so many people shot up with it as fast as possible is it's more than likely going to start some type of third or fourth wave of COVID or whatever else the heck they're injecting into us. Not me, not you, but whatever the general population that decides to capitulate and consent to this, they're going to be injected with something. What is that going to do to the populace? I have no idea. But it's highly probable, in my opinion, it's going to start spreading something, changing something, or making things worse. You add that into what's going on with this giant election debacle right now, and you have this Biden clown who's basically saying he won, running around like he won. Nobody can figure out what the heck's going on with these ballots. I've never in my life seen it take this long to count or recount anything. You got the Dominion voter system now that has an Ethernet connect to it. You can straight hook it up to the internet. It was designed specifically to be able to modify and essentially go in and change different aspects. There's so much blatant fraud that we've watched right in front of our faces. Giuliani's been put out a big press conference, I think, yesterday on it, and it's insane. But remember, none of us are okay with theft. None of us are okay with them stealing the election and Biden getting in. But as I told everybody, we all need to get real prepared and real right in the head, because once this election's overturned, if they actually get enough evidence to overturn it and it goes back in Trump's favor, it is going to start an absolute crap storm on most of the American populace when the leftists literally lose their mind and have a meltdown. And they're going to say Trump stole the election, Trump had foreign influence, Trump's meddling, blah, 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 blah. The same thing we heard in 2016, but it's going to be on a huge steroid cycle at this point. It's going to be monstrosity. That's all going to culminate together with this vaccine rolling out at almost the exact same time, ready to inject everybody with. At the exact same time, the riots start.
Get ready, folks.
So this is why